Now, you may end up with a database server on your system. One of the common database servers is MySQL. There are a handful of things that you can do to protect your MySQL server. One of the things is making sure that you've got a good password. So I want to change the password here. So for demonstration purposes, I'm going to set it to this. It's going to ask me for the existing password of the root user so that we can get access to the database and we can update the appropriate tables. So now I've just changed the password. Let's get into the database here. I'm going to use the root user and then I'm going to have it prompt me for the password that I just set. We can actually change the username for the root user because root is a pretty common username for the primary system administrator on a MySQL system, particularly ones that are running on Linux. So what I want to change is the mysql.user table. I'm going to set user equals new root where user equals root. So anywhere we find the user is equal to the word root, I'm going to change it to the word new root. And I need quotes around that. And now I'm just going to say flush privileges. And we've just changed the user. So the other thing is you want to make sure that you are not listening on any network interfaces, particularly if you don't have to be. So let's take a look at the configuration files here. We've got my.cnf, and we can take a quick look at that. Most of these you're not going to change. The client is going to be trying to connect on port 3306, and then the server, we're telling it the port is 3306. In this case, what we are doing is only listening on the local system. So that's 127.0.0.1. That's generally considered safe. You can't get to it remotely. So if this were to say bind-address equals asterisk or have an external IP address, that would be considered something that wouldn't be a great idea. Most of the rest of these are going to be okay. Of course, you can make logging changes if you want to get more log entries so that you can do auditing, for example, or if you want to be looking at things like doing log watch, or maybe having a longer historical view of what's going on your MySQL system. So, of course, you can use SSL in order to protect your network. You could also use a shroot if you wanted to lock your MySQL server instance down to a particular interface. That's not always necessary, particularly if you're only listening on your local host network. So right here, we've actually set a password, and this is going to override the other configuration file here. So we're going to use debian.cnf for our configuration. Host is localhost. Client is going to specify a different user, and it's going to have that for our password. Of course, the password is in clear text. That's not always a great idea, but it is a strong password. And as you can see, you've got to be root in order to get access to that particular configuration file. So we finally have the configuration directory. And in this case, we've got a safe syslog configuration. And right here, all it says is it's got a syslog configuration setting. So for the safe MySQL we're going to do syslog. And for others, we're going to use MySQL as its own log entity. So you can see we've got some configuration settings. Again, one thing that you want to do is you want to change your root user to something that somebody's not going to be doing brute force password attacks against. If I've already got a username, all I've got to do is continue to try passwords against it, and eventually I may be able to guess your password. Of course, listening on only the local host, or preferably only doing a socket listener, is a good idea. If you're listening on any external interface, of course, you are exposing yourself to the wider network where things like brute force attacks or any type of known vulnerability or exploit could potentially bite you.